everybody. It is Flo, your host, and Drew and Uncle Al. Brando is having some internet difficulties tonight, so he may pop back in. We are unsure at this moment. However, we are going to keep the show rolling as usual and talk about a lot of things. We have a lot going on this week, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though it was a bye week and the Vols weren't playing, still a lot of crazy stuff to happen as always in college football, some big time upsets. And I think honestly, I never thought I would say this, but I think we might be the third best team in the SEC. I really do believe that. So I never thought I would say that after week 4, but I think that kind of validated it for a lot of us after seeing some of how the outcomes game last Saturday. So.
Hey, I can't lie. I kind of detached last weekend. It was good to sit back and rest for a minute. We did have a crazy 4 weeks, definitely with the way that the Florida game decided to end. But no, it was definitely good to rest a little bit. I know that we came out a little bit banged up too following that week 4 game against Florida. So it's good that our players are hopefully getting rested up because we got a big one on Saturday.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with a quick little recap. The one that stood out for me by far the most, I mean, I was literally at the rooftop bar, which is so not a sports bar, and I was just glued to the television. Georgia and Missouri. What in the absolute fuck was that? Georgia has went on a steady decline since the start of the season. Do y'all think that was a fluke, or do you think that they really are also there is a couple of their players fighting on the sidelines, and it's showing me there's a little bit of drama going on. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they took the game lightly, and deservedly so, because Missouri's not a very good football team in the slightest. And so when you have a lot of this hype about being, the number 1 team in the country, plus on top of that being a 29.5-point favorite on the road, like, you're not going to take this game as seriously as you would if you were playing against Tennessee, or even if you were playing against Florida or Auburn. One thing that really surprised me was that, Stetson Bennett, even though he threw for 312 yards, he didn't throw a single touchdown, and they turned over the ball twice. So I think it's just a lack of, lack of focus. I mean, they proved it in the fourth quarter, scoring 14 points at the very end of, securing that win. They could, there was never a doubt, but they definitely did not, fully prepare for this game like they would if it was like they did with South Carolina. And I think they kind of took it lightly. So I still wouldn't, hesitate about saying Georgia's not the second best team in the country. I still truly believe that they are. And in my opinion, that's going to be the hardest game of the year for us. But yeah, that was shocking. I feel like an absolute moron for picking them at 29.5. So.
Hey, but I mean, honestly, that looked like a safe bet following the game that Missouri and Auburn played the week before, which right. I know that Kirby Smart and them was watching, because they both had 14 by halftime, and they didn't score again until Auburn hit the game-winning kick in OT. Mm-hmm. So when you're Georgia, you're sitting there like, all right, we got another week off, we'll be fine. But then, like you said, I mean, when you're the number 1 team in the country and you're definitely the reigning national champs, like, you will have a target on your back. So you know that you might not be giving your best every week, but whoever you're playing against will be. So Mizzou just decided to try, and Drinkwitz actually kind of had them boys playing productively. But then you saw when Georgia actually realized that they were in some trouble, they decided to turn it on and ended up winning. Mm-hmm. I kind of always thought would happen. Just kind of thought it would happen like right after the second half. But yeah, like you said, they've been unimpressive the last 2 weeks. But again, they were playing Kent State, so they probably weren't trying to show much. Still ended up winning by 19, but then the Mizzou game was just weird. Honestly, just weird. I think that's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to put it into perspective, Mizzou, I mean, we're talking about Mizzou held Georgia to 4 of 13 on third down, only 169 rushing yards, 6 field goals, forced 2 fumbles, which they recovered both. Georgia still maintained time of possession 34-48 to 25-12. Yet Georgia only won by 4 points at the very last bit of the game. That shit is crazy. I'm not saying that they're trash or anything, but what I saw in the Missouri team is almost more surprising because their defense looked pretty solid against this Georgia offense. And I was just shocked. That might be like their last, mentally they were like, all right, it's the number one team in the country. Let's put this shit out there and see what we can do. And now they're just kind of heartbroken on Mizzou's end. But that was quite an awesome game. And then, of course, as we're going into LSU week, we have the Auburn LSU game. Alex, I know you said you took a break, but Drew, did you catch any of that one?
Yeah, I was able to catch a little bit of it. One of the big things that really surprised me is that, guys, LSU has no passing game at all. They threw. I'm not like, and this is not a joke. This is not exaggerated. This is legitimate statistics. They threw for 5 yards in the second half. 5, and they won. That's the more shocking thing, was that they still won on the road against Auburn, throwing only 5 yards in the second half. And it wasn't like they threw a significant amount in the first. They only threw 85 yards the entire game. Like, this is not a very good football team. And one of the things that really surprised me that stuck out more than just that, though, was that they gave up 337 passing yards to Auburn's backup quarterback. Like, let that sink in for a second. Like, if we like, even if Hendon plays like 80% like he did against Florida, he's going to get over 400 yards. I mean, like, he's going to rip this defense to shreds, and I'm not exaggerating that. Like, that's a stone cold fact, So LSU, it's unbelievable this team's a top 25 team. There is no way in the slightest that this team deserves to be in the top 25. It looks great for our resume because, that'll mean we'll have 3 top 25 wins before even making the halfway mark. So that'll look great for us. But, yeah, I was just shocked. And, if you're Auburn, you got to fire Brian Harsin. I mean, that guy's toast. I mean, just absolutely terrible.
I was gonna say I saw the tweets of the stats that you just said, Drew, and it's funny because like this whole week I've seen that there's only 2 extremes. One, that LSU is going to run away with this, and we don't know how to play in Death Valley because the last time we played in Death Valley, we shot ourselves in the foot because we put like 15 people out there. Whatever. That was back in 2010 with Dooley. So there's that. But then there's the other half that said, yeah, Ashford threw for 337 yards, and Hooker's probably going to have a Heisman moment on Saturday. So I'm just kind of like sitting around waiting for this game to start because I want to see which extreme we're closer to. But it does seem like it'll be more of Hooker's day. Giving up 337 yards on any given day is not good, especially when it's Auburn, who still managed to only score 17 again for the second straight week. But I don't know. I just want to see the boys go out there and win a good road game. I know, like, Pitt was good, but we started too slow for my liking there. So I would love to see us jump out early and let LSU play from behind because obviously if they have to throw it, then they're going to be in some trouble. But
so, and if we're analyzing just specifically the LSU Auburn game, Daniels threw 8. He completed 8 of 20 for 80 yards, a QB rating of 61.6. But then you look at their rushing, they had 185 yards total on the ground. I'm not concerned about that. The matchups I'm looking at is their receiving versus our secondary, which is our weak link. And against Auburn, they only put up 10 receptions, 85 yards, no touchdown catches, and Keyshawn Butte only had 1 reception, 4 yards. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing as well, though. It's like they have a lot of tremendous talent in the wide receiver room. But Keyshawn Butte has only caught 10 passes this entire year. I mean, like, they're not getting him the ball. And I don't know if that's just because there's not a click between Jaden Daniels and Butte, which, I mean, is certainly a possibility. But, I mean, they have a very mediocre offensive line, and they're really reliant on Jaden Daniels on using his legs, and which, don't get me wrong, that is the one thing I'm really, like, afraid of. It's like on Saturday, it's like Jaden Daniels going off for like 150 rushing yards or something. But, I mean, if you limit him and force him to stay in the pocket, like, he's not going to – and, like, I'm probably going to jinx myself on this one, but he's not going to have an Anthony Richardson day on us because Anthony Richardson is like much shit as we gave him. Like, is still a freak of an athlete and shown flashes that he could be a very good quarterback. Jaden Daniels hasn't shown that at all this year. And if you make him use your arm, like, I mean, we're going to have a field day. There's no doubt about it. But naturally, of course, since I mentioned that point, he'll probably wind up throwing 300 yards against us and get 5 touchdowns. So, but No, I mean, I think the biggest fear for me, though, is just we got to find a way to be able to, contain their run game, and our offensive line's got to step up against their front seven. LSU still has a very good defense, even despite allowing over 300 yards to their backup running back. And this is going to be a big test for our offensive line. I mean, we're going to need guys like Cooper Mays and Darnell Wright to really step it up, and Jerome Carvin, too. So if they be able to step that up, give Hooker some time, I mean, who knows? We might see a Heisman moment for Hendon Hooker. So.
Again, I really don't know what to expect from LSU, just because I seen something I think yesterday that was saying that they had a players only meeting with the QB room and the wide receiver room, saying that they were going to figure this out and that they were disappointed in the way they've played, and there's a lack of trust between QB and receiver. That's why Butte hasn't gotten as many receptions as we kind of predicted. And apparently, quoted, they left that meeting with a lot more trust gained. But I don't know how you can prove that going from a Monday afternoon to a Saturday mid-game. So, I mean, that's still, like, up for debate to see, like, what actually transpired. But, I mean, if your receivers don't feel like they're being targeted enough, they're going to quit playing. And if they feel like their QB is not really supporting them, then why should they support him? So, I don't know. It just seems like their offense is, like, in shambles right now. And they struggle to put up 21 against Auburn, which I think is still kind of wild. But no, I still think it's just going to be all Vols on Saturday.
I don't know. We'll get to those predictions here in a bit. I'm still kind of struggling. We're at Wednesday, so I'm not really fully committed one way or the other yet.
I mean, it's like our first. I mean, I know we played Missouri, but let's be real. Missouri wasn't really a road game, considering like 15,000 of them that were in the stadium were Vol fans. This is going to be like the first true proper road game experience this team has had this year. And, I mean, I know it's a new 11 a.m. kickoff over there, but, guys, I mean, they're opening up the gates at 9 a.m. They're already serving beer at 9 a.m. They announced that today. So,
yeah,
it's still gonna be lit. It's still going to be rocking. And thank God it's not a night kickoff, 7:30 kickoff in Death Valley. But we got to start off early. We got to start off hot and get a touchdown those first two drives. I mean, and make them chase us, because if we're the ones that are chasing it, I mean, we might see our first loss of the season.
I fully agree with that. I mean, it's just hard to get the wheels rolling when you're down by so far, I mean, now, not to say we can't, though, because we started out terribly at Pitt and somehow came back and won that one. So I'm not losing all faith in them, but they just really have to go out and get started from the get-go. And what better way to get started than wearing these smoky gray uniforms on the road? I want y'all's take on, is this a good move and is it totally fine? Or do y'all see this as pretty cocky to do on the road week 5? What do y'all think on that?
I mean, I don't really think it's cocky, considering like the last time we wore them, we lost 42-0 to Georgia. But I mean, if there's going to be a game that we're going to wear them, this game made the most sense, considering that, we're going to likely wear the dark mode jerseys for Kentucky since it's Halloween weekend. You wouldn't wear the grays for UT Martin or for Missouri. And I mean, I know they've been talking about it for a while, but like, wearing them back and making it a yearly thing where we wear them once a year. I don't have an issue with it. Just win. I mean, it's one of those things for me. It's like they could wear freaking rainbow, for all I care. Just win the damn ball game. So if it makes the players have an extra pep to their step and we'll, make them feel a little hype up and get them excited, then like I'm all for it. But I mean, if we're wearing gray, wearing orange, wearing polka dots, it doesn't matter. We need to beat LSU on Saturday. So,
no, I agree. I think it kind of just goes back to the old adage, like, look good, feel good, play good. Whatever y'all want to wear it, as long as you show up on game day. If you're going to make a bunch of noise about wearing something, then I feel like it does put a little bit more pressure on you to perform. But again, like, some people perform better under pressure. So, I mean, we'll see if we can talk all this mess about, like, oh, yeah, let's go wear these, like, alternate uniforms in your house, then we just better be ready to play. That's all I got to say, I guess. Because you can't be loud like that and then not show up. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn. I'm not going to say that I don't think it's at least a little cocky, because I don't know. It's just like, who wears alternates on the road? in a big game like that. Not many people. However, I love it. I think it's fucking awesome.
And Florida did it last year when they played LSU. They wore their orange. Brando's finally here.
There he is.
Wow.
Speaking of dark mode jerseys,
It is an awful turn of events here at the Brando household. Let me tell you that. I got finessed by Xfinity twice today. My internet went off, came back on, went off, came back on, and now it's back off again. We can't get it together. So I am here. That's
why Comcast is terrible. Never get them on.
Yeah. I was told I was getting upgraded to fiber, but I would, rather just, be without it, Awful.
Yeah, tell them to kick rocks. So
disgusting.
Now, don't get me wrong. If there's any Comcast executives listening to this, we would still love you to be a sponsor for us, of course. But just from my personal experience, it's not been the best.
What are we on? The smoky gray jerseys?
Yeah.
We are. Good job.
Yeah. I was hyped. Obviously, the rumor the last 2 weeks, they were coming back around or whatever. But to see them being brought out on a road game, I know everyone was kind of iffy about it, but I'm hyped about it. 11 a.m. kickoff. The team needs some kind of energy to go on the road. Now announced sold out Tiger Stadium, so I think they're gonna have that energy to go out there and compete. And it's not Neyland where it's sold out. You're going in someone else's environment, and you got to go get that win. So if it makes them feel better, look good, play good, all that, I'm for it.
Did you just say it was sold out?
Yeah, it's officially sold out in Tiger Stadium.
Well, it's not, because I have 2 tickets. If anyone fucking wants to buy them, I do not want to lose $220. Take them off my hands. I got them from Tennessee as a season ticket holder, and I paid what I paid for them, and I can't get it back. So if you need tickets, please, to God, hit me up on Twitter so I don't lose $220.
I've seen you post in the Facebook pages. I've seen you post in the group text. I've seen it on Twitter. Lo wants these tickets gone. Someone help Lo get these tickets gone.
Lo has to find a fucking house. Lo has to find a house. That is my number one priority right now.
What? That'd be a great next topic for us to talk about. Let's talk about how ridiculous the ticket prices for the Alabama game has gotten. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's like I was telling Brando. I wound up actually getting a fantastic deal for our tickets. Brando, you got something to say?
Well, me too. We're looking at the secondary prices, and then on Twitter, Vols Twitter coming in clutch because of my page or whatever. But any other fan, if you're going on Ticketmaster, Vivid Seats, you're looking to spend for lower decks, $500, $600 a ticket, crazy.
It's insane. And I've had some people have the nerve to message me saying they're going to sell their row 25 upper deck tickets for $400 a piece, and I'm like, is this? Honestly, and I'm glad that the Vols are back, but I am not thrilled about these prices by any stretch of the imagination. So, do you think it's just getting out of hand? Do you think this is something that's going to die down, or do you think with all this hype around the program, which is probably the most hype Tennessee's had around the football program since Philip Fulmer, that this is just going to be the new norm, that we're just going to have to pay $400 to go see them play?
Well, let me start off. I talked about this on Overtime the other night, but if you are the common fan and you are in the area or even not in the area, the absolute best thing to do is sign up for season tickets immediately, because I've been a season ticket holder for 5 years now. And when they made all the renovations, I know a lot of people got screwed over, but I actually got a 33% decrease in my price of tickets. And let me tell you, the price that I pay per ticket is absolutely nothing compared to these secondhand sites. If you are really trying to get in, you can sign up to be a season ticket holder right now and get on a payment plan for the next 8 months. And it would literally be less than a car payment. And then before you know it, you have all your tickets locked in, and then you're the one who can sell them at double the value or face value or go or whatever you want to do. I think that's the option that you have to go at this point.
Yeah, I think the best option for a while was the Vol Pass. I don't know if y'all did that, but that was a steal because that was $30-$40 a ticket. And then you could flip those. If you flipped them for face value, you were still doubling your profit on each ticket. Granted, I was using most of them, but I wish that was back, but I understand. But no, that is crazy. They came out it was like right after we beat Florida that Monday. They were like, "Here, re-up your season tickets." And I was like, "Dang, y'all getting after it. Y'all ain't wasting no time getting that money back." That was crazy.
Smart business from there, and I have to respect the hustle. So
yeah. I remember even speaking of the Florida game, I was looking at like 50-yard line home side, like 30 or 40 rows up, like section T, I think. But somebody was selling tickets for $1,700 a piece. And I was like, what are y'all on? Like, I know inflation's hitting, but you ain't got to hit it like that. Like, these are your own people you doing this to. So I would say, like, if you are buying single game tickets, either like stay on Twitter, obviously at low, but also look in like the Vol Facebook group, the Vol for Life group, because I also got a steal on those Florida tickets I got. I think I paid $250 a piece. But again, if you buying them off of Facebook or Twitter, you can avoid those the fees, because that's like an extra $30-$40 per ticket that you really don't even need.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you just do that, just be careful about who you buying from, because I know some people have been getting scammed like that. But I don't know, just do your diligence and like look into it before you do it. But
I guess to agree with y'all, like the point of like, winning, putting a product on the field, the prices are going up like it was back in the day whenever Tennessee was great. You saw those prices skyrocket just to get an annealing experience. After the Florida game, all you saw was fan bases talking about like, I'm not a Vols fan, but that place looks so wild that like I have to get in there and see it. And it's not just Tennessee fans trying to get into Neyland Stadium now. Like everyone wants to see one of the best environments in college football. So I guess I got to agree with Lowe. Season tickets, buying those season tickets, I saw like section M where Lowe sits in the end zone. They're like, what, $600 a piece a person now? So,
Yeah, they're about. So what we did, like we got such a discount. I think my total was under 700, but that was me splitting, not only getting my seat, but splitting a floater seat, a third of the cost of a floater seat, so that we could have an extra seat for whoever we wanted to bring or sell it. I went in on that with my parents, and we just split it 3 ways. And so that's a seat and a third of a seat for under $700. That's a steal.
Yeah. I looked into like getting for next year for me and my mom, and like maybe like over like $1,300 or $1,200 to $1,300. But when you look at people like what they spent for Florida or Bama for those lower deck seats, just those 2 games alone in the span of 4 weeks, like they're spending both of that for 2 major games. So, like, I know, people were hesitant under the past coaches to spend that money and go ahead, and that's a lot of money to spend on a product. But, with the product on the field right now, it's kind of hard to, like, not hop on that whenever now in this present day when we're actually good again. And, you have to pay $700 for 2 seats, or maybe even $700 for a single if you don't know the right people. Like, luckily, I know me and Drew lucked out. I'm in P, like, through Y10, and somehow we were blessed. But I see people on Twitter, and they're saying, $750 a piece.
It's like what I was telling Logic. Like, I've literally seen people in my section selling tickets for $700 a piece. And I'm not going to lie, if this wasn't the Bama game, I would be extremely tempted to sell that, because I'd be tripling whatever I paid for. So, but it's just, it's exciting to know that, like, the demand is that high again for Tennessee football. Because I remember when I was in college and I would fly over here and, try to go a game or 2 a year, you could be able to go see them play in South Carolina for $15 in the upper deck. So, like, it's just crazy how much has changed, like, in the last 3 years of, like, going from, like, literally buying a ticket on game day for, like, a third of face value to, the cheapest ticket you find in the upper deck is almost $300 now. So. Well, we got a little technical difficulties over there.
Yeah, my lamp. What the hell?
Oh gosh.
No, yeah, I'm not sure how much this Xfinity will hold up on my 5G as we speak. I'm looking at the router every 2 seconds to see if it blinked back on, but it's just not gonna work. I guess, have y'all discussed last week and this week?
The one game we had forgot to discuss, and my God, we got to do it, is Kentucky Ole Miss. Just the meltdown from Kentucky in those last 5 minutes was just absolutely beautiful. Their whole entire offense coordinator praising about how Will Levis is going to be a number 1 overall pick, a first-round quarterback, all this jazz, only for him to cost 2 costly fumbles to lose the game, probably their first, potentially, or Mark Stoops' first ever win on the road against an SEC West team, and he absolutely blew it. So you can't beat it. It's just absolutely gorgeous seeing Kentucky blow it in the game that they had in the bag. So love to hear your thoughts on Kentucky shit in the bed, as always.
Yeah, I mean, that was – I don't know. I absolutely fucking hate Lane Kiffin. I don't know why everyone likes him. So I was really torn in that game. I don't like the coal miners either. But at least Ole Miss embarrassed themselves with their god-awful striping of the stadium that looked like a rotten piece of candy, Halloween candy wrapper. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was. Chewed up piece of gum. I don't know. Looked disgusting. But it was pretty hysterical. Will Levis just totally screwed the pooch on that, like bad. That was such a funny thing to watch. Like, Hendon Hooker doesn't even get any credit at all for what he's done, but this Will Levis dude is like God himself. So I just thought that was hilarious.
It's also kind of tough that he got – what was it? He got hit in the second quarter, I think. And then he got up and it looked like he was throwing up gang signs with the way his pinky was facing or something like that.
Yeah,
I think it was close to hell. But no, yeah, it was. I was sitting there watching it on my phone because I was grocery shopping. But I seen Kentucky. They threw a touchdown pass at the end, and I was like, "Dadgummit!" They came back. They won this. Like, I don't need any proof that Kentucky is even like relevant. So anytime they do something like this, it just like pisses you off. But then they threw a flag. They got a holding, I think, or something like that. So they had to run it back. And then here go Levis, doing his best, fumbling it, losing the game, and then going and crying on the sidelines. I think Bandit sent some kind of tweet. It was like a tradition like no other, Levis crying on the side during an SEC game. But, I mean, yeah, it sucks when you see somebody like Lane Kiffin have success because the way he burned us. But I don't think anything beats seeing Kentucky fans sad. Like, especially in football when they try to act all high and mighty because they got ranked in the top 10 for once, like ever. But – no, yeah, seeing them lose, seeing them crumble, they still the same old Kentucky that they have been.
I mean, that's the thing, dude. It's just something gorgeous about knowing that all those coal miners spent their hard-earned money traveling all the way to Mississippi just for them to take a big fat L. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Like, and not to mention, like what Lowe said with like their striping of the stadium that Ole Miss had. It looked like something like where like you bought checker kneeling on Etsy.com and then like that was like the final product that you got. I mean,
Wish.com.
Oh yeah, I mean it was just absolutely terrible. I mean, like you notice that all those programs after like checker kneeling, like Ole Miss, Auburn, they try to do their exact same thing. It's just great. I mean, there's something good happening when everyone's trying to copy us. So
yeah, I mean that's like a top 20 game, and they were like it was right after we did it, and obviously we did what we did, but then they try it and they're like, oh yeah, let's just replicate that, and then it looked like male pattern baldness out there. Like I mean, there was just patches everywhere. Like I didn't even know what was going on. I was like, you can't even show up for the number 7 team in the country coming to play at your place. Like that's kind of wild. But I mean, I don't know. Go ahead, Brando. Sorry,
that's what I thought was crazy about the whole week. Kiffin, trying to get people there. It was an early kickoff. 11 a.m. I get that, but just trying to get people in the stands. Ole Miss, their schedule, they've kind of had a quiet schedule. It was crazy to see like how they would kind of match up against an SEC opponent and how raved about Kentucky's defense has always been the last few years. But I feel like gameplay wise, Ole Miss, their running game, that's scary. Like Zach Evans and Ulysses Grant, like those two pretty much won the game. Wasn't too impressed with Jackson Dart, in my opinion. I feel like he fits the system. He's learned the system, but he's not like a guy like Matt Corral last year that's going to take him to the next level. And then Kentucky, Will Levis, I feel like he kind of sold to the game, like their offensive game plan. It fell through, man, like late there in the game. It was like the one game I got to watch last week right before work, and just to see Kentucky like fall flat on their face, travel to Ole Miss in Mississippi, probably hot as can be. And then the whole checkerboard thing, it looked like there was like honestly more Kentucky fans there than Ole Miss on one side. It was just weird. Like I've never seen a striped stadium be broken just because maybe we're so good at it and, checker kneeling can't be affected or can't be beat. But to see someone else do it, like you said, like it was a Make-A-Wish failure. It was just crazy to see. And I know y'all probably touched on the other games, but like it wasn't just Ole Miss and Kentucky falling flat in their face. Like we saw it all across the conference. Like it was crazy to see like teams that you thought would go in there and just be elite struggle when they had to face adversity. And I thought that was crazy. Not to look forward to the next few weeks later in the season. We got to take care of LSU, but these teams, man, like no one's that number one team right now in the nation, in my opinion, the SEC.
I mean, and that's the thing for me. It's like after watching, not just Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Georgia, Missouri, but like Alabama, Arkansas. every game's winnable, guys. Like the only game where I still think is probably like a solidified loss is like just Georgia on the road. And that's just because it's in Athens and we never have any luck over there, with the refs, of course. And it's always a tough environment to play. But like, guys, I mean, like from a talent perspective, I mean, like Alabama, like as I never thought in a million years I'd ever say this, but like Alabama might be we might win that game. Like if we start off hot and catch them at the right time, and I know you have never thought in a million years I would say that 3 months ago, especially, but here we are. Times have changed, so get used to it. That's a winnable game. Kentucky, we're whipping their ass. I mean, and they can, sing back, to the Bluegrass State, with their, probably freaking horses, carriage and all that shit going back up to Lexington. And South Carolina's hot garbage. They're terrible. I mean, Shane Beamer, that goofball, he ain't beating.
But they got Spencer Rattler.
He's trash, dude. He's like Nathan Peterman, man. He's awful. He's the most overrated quarterback I've ever seen.
Man.
Especially
we take care of business.
Candidate like this past offseason.
They got
if we take care of business against Jaden Daniels this week, we're going to take care of business later down the line. And I know we keep looking ahead after I just said not to look ahead, but looking ahead to the Bama week, announced today, Rick Barnes, the open practice. Obviously, this fire tailgate on G5, like the energy is already going to be crazy if you walk into that game, Hawaii 5-0. And then on top of that, you got, the energy at 11:30 from Rick Barnes and the boys. Like, I just, it's setting up to be. Obviously, we have to go take care of an away environment, this week. But, just the path ahead, man. Like, how long has it been since you honestly saw, like, a path ahead for Tennessee to actually, go 10-2 and make it to, like, the Sugar Bowl in year 2 under a coach? Like, it's just crazy to think about.
I would say genuinely the last time where felt like we had a shot going 10-2 was 2016.
Yeah.
Like that was probably our best opportunity. And hell, we didn't even have to go 10-2 to make the Sugar Bowl that year. We just had to beat fucking Vanderbilt. That's it. We couldn't even do that. Like, so
that's still crazy. That still blows my mind.
Like seriously, like, and probably outside of that, maybe 2006, 2007, but like this is the best Tennessee team easily in 15 years. Easily since we made, SEC championship in 2007. So sky's the limit for this team. Every game's winnable, and like we're gonna lose a couple games. We're not Alabama or Georgia yet, but man, I've never felt this type of energy though, like in Knoxville, like ever in my lifetime.
The difference is this is not like, I've said this so many times, but it is so accurate that it's not just some weird fake jump on the bandwagon. Oh, we're 4-0. Oh my God. Like 2016 was. This is legitimate. They have played two very legitimate teams, one on the road, and they're about to head to LSU 4-0 and have a very strong chance at winning that game. And then when you look at Bama and Georgia, they've both already had shaky games. Did they lose them? No, but they have exposed some weaknesses in areas that I never thought we would see. I was like, oh my God, Georgia is the best team in the country by a mile when this whole thing first started. And now they have steadily kind of declined with every game they play. Will they pick it back up? I don't know. Probably, but it's just crazy to see that not only do we know that we are a legitimate team and we have played good teams, but also we have already faced adversity, already had an overtime on the road and won that. Like, there is a lot that this team can do and has been through already. Now, what I do think is interesting leading into the LSU game is ESPN FPI only gives Tennessee a 41.7 chance to win, yet we are favored by 3. So what do y'all think about that? Does anyone even look into that? What do you guys?
When I first saw it, obviously I know that with ESPN FPI, it always plays in a factor of like where you're playing. Obviously, one of the top 5 stadiums in the country is Tiger Stadium, respectfully. What's going to happen? They're coming off 4-1 after, Florida State. I think they haven't allowed like a second half point, or maybe like very few. Their defense has been absolutely insane. Offensive passing identity, it's not there. We saw that against Auburn in the second half last week. But defensively, that's what's been winning them games and keeping them alive. And, I don't read too much into it. Obviously everyone trusts Vegas, but for Vegas to see it less than a field goal, difference that's saying a lot about what this is going to be. There's that tale that if you're the home team, you get a 3-point favorite or whatever. So maybe the spread's really, -5 Tennessee. I think it's going to start with offense. The second half stat I just mentioned, it's going to have to be that offense getting, hot early. But to, see that, like, I just think that we're so hot right now. And the beginning of the year, this was my toss-up game. I didn't know if Tennessee, going into this game, if I actually would have them beating LSU in the preseason at Skybox. I gave it to us, but now I'm like kind of confident that if we get started early, I just don't think what LSU's done to the team's second half this year, they're going to be able to do to this kind of offense. And maybe I'm wrong. They stopped Mississippi State really well, but I feel like off a bye week, all the wrinkles, getting everyone healthy. Is Cedric Tillman going to be out there? We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, and I can't buy into that number when there's a lot of question marks around us and LSU right now.
Yeah, I mean, like the FPI index that ESPN uses takes like a lot of context, basically just like, the overall record between two teams facing one another, the home field advantage aspects, and also like the recruiting rankings between one team and the other. And I mean, in that sense, like, even as bad as LSU is this year, it's still one of the top 5 toughest places to play in America. There's no doubt about that. From a talent perspective, like recruiting wise, you can't deny it. They have more talent than we do. Now, they're not as coached as well, in my opinion, as they do. But they also do have Brian Kelly, who also, again, is probably one of the most respected and one of the best head coaches in college football in the last year. So when you take in a lot of those, think about it, it makes sense. But like Vegas knows what they're talking about for a reason. That's why no one ever always wins big time money against Vegas. Like there's a reason why we're 3-point favorites, and there's a reason why a lot of people have picked Tennessee to win this game because we got a high-powered offense. Like nobody can stop us. Nobody will stop us, and there's not anything they can do about it. And LSU doesn't have a very good offense, and they have a terrible quarterback. So there's a lot of things that go into it. I don't really care what ESPN says. I mean, they also have like their FPI rankings, and somehow because we didn't play a game last weekend, LSU's ranked higher than us somehow. So their like metric system makes zero sense at all. So I'm not worried about it. Just get the job done Saturday, and that's all that matters.
No, I agree. I think it's kind of ridiculous. But again, like y'all have said, just that's why you play the game. Like if they were favored to win and then we didn't play the game, then that'd be whatever. But no, I think on paper we are a better team. And I mean, LSU is LSU. They will always have a stout defense with stud secondaries and stud safeties and stuff like that. But I mean, the thing that you were saying about the second half points and stuff, Drew, or Brando, I forget who it was. Their most competitive game in terms of offense was Mississippi State. Granted, they did hold Mississippi State to 16 points, but they've played Auburn, New Mexico, the juggernaut of Southern, and Florida State, and we saw how they ended up against Florida State. And I think Florida State is also stinky. So, I mean, I think we are their first test, like as a complete team. They, again, like I said, they did handle Mississippi State, but I think this will tell a lot about us as much as it will them. So it'll be interesting to see. I do think the 3-point favorites for us makes a lot more sense than us having a 40% chance to win. But again, this was also my toss-up game. I thought this was like more of a 50-50 game than anything. If it was played in Neyland, I would be a lot more comfortable. But like y'all said, playing in Baton Rouge at any point in time is incredibly tough. Good thing that we get them at 11 a.m. before lunch, so hopefully they just think about what they get to eat after the game. But it'll be a tough one.
Well, did you see the announcement? Did you see the announcement that they said they're going to have beer on sale at 9 a.m.?
At 9 a.m., yeah, that's crazy.
I was telling them that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not going to be the same atmosphere as it would be for a 2:30 kickoff or 6:30 over there for a night game. But, like, it's still sold out Tiger Stadium, man. Like, it's still going to be rowdy. But that's why, like, it's really, really huge. Like, in those first 2 or 3 drives, we either at least get a touchdown, get some points on the board, and try to shut this thing out early.
Yeah, I mean, what I predict, I think it's still going to start out super rowdy. They'll probably either stay up all night drinking or get up at like 5 a.m. and start, but then by halftime they'll be hot and tired and kind of die down, especially when the Vols are up by 10 points. But I did want to go back, if y'all remember, and look at when we predicted the whole season from start to finish. So this was my first loss of the season. I had us going 4-0 into Baton Rouge, and then I predicted, and it makes me sick to think about this because it's a 3-point spread, and I predicted a super close game and that we go into overtime and Tennessee loses 38-35. Do y'all remember yours?
I've got them right here. We've got
what
Lowe
was
at
mine, Alex? You forget to remind me.
we got Lowe at a 38-35 loss, Brando at a 34-24 win, Drew at a 38-30 win, and I had a 28-24 loss.
See,
So we're all hanging around.
30-30 because when I was thinking about it today, I still wrote down my prediction and still wound up being 38-30. So I'm glad I'm being consistent. So
That is
Were you
good.
picking it no?
no, I picked
Okay.
I picked back in August that we were winning this game. Florida was different. You must
Okay.
admit when they had that onside kick that all three of you are probably like, oh my god.
Hey man, we didn't even go talk about that onside kick. That they played that so perfect. He caught it in stride. I was like, I'm really finna have to run out here and tackle him myself. I was so scared.
It was funny because for my first of the year predictions on that Florida game, I said 34-24 Tennessee wins, but then on overtime, I said what was it, 38-27 or something, and it was that way for so freaking long, and I was like, oh my god, did I really call it to a T? But I didn't. It got even closer than that.
I think we've only had like 2 perfect scores, and I think it was you and Brando for
Akron.
10.
Yeah. I mean, I think this game, like, I can see like a 3-point victory, like my early prediction. I think this is going to be like a 34 to like 31, 34-30. I can definitely see it going in the overtime, like Lo said, but as it increases more and more, like the lines, I just think that we edge this one out somehow. Like Pitt, I definitely, we saw our defense come alive late. I'm interested to hear y'all, like what y'all past the victory is, how Tennessee gets this done. I think it comes with our pressure and, getting to Jaden Daniels, obviously it's going to be tough to see him throw. AR was able to do it to us 2 weeks ago, and we thought he couldn't throw the football. So not really like what we have at the DB room, obviously Warren Burrell being out for the season. How that's going to manage for Jaden Daniels. But I saw a stat today, according to SEC Network, that we have the 5th best pressure rate in the nation, not just the SEC, but the nation. And, getting to a quarterback like that of Jaden Daniels, obviously LSU's left guard, coming back, 1 week after a broken hand surgery. They lost Seven Banks last week on their defense, who was a transfer in their defensive backfield. I think, offensively and defensively, I think getting the pressure on Jaden Daniels and not even giving their offense a chance to get that run game going is going to be huge. Because if you can stop his run game, then you can crack down on their running backs, which are really still in the show right now. It'll be interesting to see does Kayshon Boutte and Jaden Daniels finally get that touch. But that's going to be my path to victory is, shutting down their offense. I know our offense is going to score points, but can we shut down their run game that, got them back in the game against Auburn?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with most of those. My main things is that the offensive line's got to be able to stop LSU's front seven. Got to buy some protection for Hendon Hooker. I've made some couple bold predictions, which I don't know, probably most of y'all are going to disagree with, but I don't care. I'm still going to say them anyway. So, bold prediction number 1, Hendon Hooker's going to throw his first interception of the season on Saturday. I think it'll probably be at some point in the second quarter. There's just going to be a miscommunication with, just with the crowd noise and everything like that. It will get them fired up, but they'll only wind up getting 3 points out of it. Bryce Young is going to record multiple sacks. I have no faith in LSU's offensive line, and with the quarterback hurt as well, with us being 5th in the nation, him and Tyler Barron are going to have a day with those edges. And I think Joshua Josephs and Tyree West are going to have a couple, record a couple sacks as well. But I still think 38-30, and I still think this is a game, even if Hooker throwing an interception, he's still going to wind up having over 400 yards total offense. Still believe that.
So, Drew, you're telling me that Bryce Young is going to come in and get multiple sacks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alabama's starting quarterback.
Byron. Goddamn. Byron Young.
Yeah. No, I'll play it.
That would be pretty incredible if he did. He would definitely be a number 1.
That'd be tough.
Yeah. Byron Young will get multiple sacks. I believe that. Tyler Barron will record a sack too, and I think there's going to be at least anywhere between 8 to 10 tackle for losses in this game. I just have zero faith in their offensive line, especially when one of their guys is a graduate transfer from East Tennessee State. So he's not that good. So I mean, there's no excuse for his defense, at least the front seven, to play lights out. Like there just isn't. I mean, it's compared to the other offensive lines that we're going to face this year. This is a game where we have to get at least 2 or 3 sacks.
Okay, so here's the difference for me in this game between like super close and like me saying Vols will win by 10. If our defense comes out hot from literally the blow of the whistle and doesn't let up, we have the potential to absolutely wreck LSU. I'm talking applying pressure from the start constantly, just annihilating the shit out of Daniels. If we start doing that from the first quarter, there's no telling how this game could go. However, I like your prediction there, Drew. Hendon Hooker is not going to be perfect forever. I wish he could be, but he can't. It's impossible. So I could definitely see some miscommunication, especially with some of the miscommunication, or I guess they weren't quite on the ball with some of his throws in previous games. So I can see that happening. But really, as long as we can get to Daniels, I don't think LSU is really going to score much on us at all. All we have to do is just score more points. I mean, that's really all there is to it. And I think we can certainly do that. Now, I think we're going to have to be a lot better on the receiving end, because I think they'll stop us a lot rushing. I don't think that we'll get a lot of rushing out of them, but because they've got a pretty solid front there. So I really do think that we're just going to have to make sure that we make our passes and run our routes correctly, and that's pretty much all I think we have to do, as long as our defense applies pressure to the quarterback.
Yeah, I kind of see this game going the way that the Pitt game went, where we kind of discombobulated. Hold on, don't you make a face, Drew. Where we discombobulated them a little bit just because we got after the quarterback so much. Like, I think we were pretty effective at taking Slovis out of the game. Not that he was like really like the biggest factor, but we obviously saw a drop in production when Slovis went out and nice old Patty came in. So, I mean, I think that's a huge part of this game. So, yeah, it does fall on our D-line to get pressure. But also, like you said, getting to Daniels is one thing, but getting him down is another thing. So I think it's also going to be a very important day for our linebackers to make sure that if he does get out of the pocket, which he doesn't stay in there very long, he will tuck it and run as soon as he feels pressure, that we contain it and make the tackle, because we have a long-standing history of mobile quarterbacks affecting us. I mean, we saw it multiple times last year, and we saw it a little bit in the Florida game. But as long as we can contain him from running, because that's the way that he'll beat us, I'm not worried about him throwing the ball. But as long as we can keep him contained, then, I mean, we should be fine. And low, like you said, we don't really have a problem putting up points. And even against like stout defenses, I still see us scoring at least 35, even 31, something like that. And I think that's enough to beat LSU.
Oh, yeah. It's like what, one of our listeners, Larry, said. He put in the comments section, this isn't like, the past LSU teams from the last 10 years. Like, yeah, I mean, they still have talent, but they've also lost a lot. And they really struggle from, depth perspective, especially the offensive line, defensive line. So my biggest thing, though, is that, guys, I never thought I would say this, but, like, losing Warren Burrell is, like, actually, like, a huge loss for us, because we have no one in the secondary. I know D. Williams is coming back. He was clear to go. I think Heupel said that either today or yesterday, but he's here and he's back playing, which is huge for us because we need all the help that we can get.
Yeah.
He was one of the best guys in camp. But, I think it's just one of those things. If we force Jaden Daniels to throw the deep ball, because, he's only 6 for 18 throwing, 20 yards or more. If we force him to throw, a ball down the field, I think we have an excellent chance to win this game and, win it easily. But if they're able to get in a groove, throwing a couple slants and getting those 5-10 yards every other play, and, Jaden Daniels scrambling out of the pocket, that's where they might make it a little bit more of a game. But, like, the outcome that I see regardless is, like, I think it's either going to be a Vols blowout, like what you said, low at the out of the gate, like our defense is just relentless for the first 45 minutes, or kind of like even like how Kentucky was last year, where we just outscored them. Like, even if our defense isn't playing the absolute best, we just have too much firepower on the
I don't think they
offensive
keep
side.
pace.
So I think it'll be a good game on Saturday, and it'll be our first win in Tiger Stadium since 2005, as hard as that sounds to believe.
Wow.
So big game on Saturday, and I mean it'll just make even next Saturday even crazier than it's already going to be. So.
Well, bringing up Warren Burrell being out, one of our listeners was asking earlier in the show, kind of at the very beginning, but I knew we'd get to it at some point. They were asking about Ced, kind of wanting to know like an injury update on him and kind of what we thought about when he would be back. Do we want to go ahead and get into that a little bit?
Well, actually, there was just an update. Josh Heupel was currently doing the ball calls, and he said that today at practice, like yesterday, he finally got back out there the last 2 days. Today, he finally was moving around in drills and in formation. So, if we're going to continue surgery itself for a wide receiver compared to, everyone comparing it to Tua, it's completely different. Being able to go out there, run 15, 20 yards every play, cut on your feet like a wide receiver can at Cedric Tillman's caliber. 39% chance he plays, 51% chance he doesn't. Are we good?
I don't know. Maybe it's
Well,
on my end.
The glitch in the matrix, Brandon.
No, it's him, baby. Just keep
Really?
going. Push through, baby.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think there's, maybe like it's like a 49, 51% chance he plays, man. I just,
I wouldn't risk it.
I wouldn't risk it.
Brandon,
I wouldn't risk it, just like I wouldn't risk this Wi-Fi you have with Xfinity right now. Like,
it's not even connected. Yeah, it's pretty bad, brother. Actually, it's literally coming back as we speak. You just said that, and your voodoo just reversed my router to sync in.
Literally, Brando, it's so bizarre that your fan is switching directions that it's turning.
It's going forward and backwards just for the hell of it.
Like I said, glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, but
my laptop's about to load in 30 seconds, so this is perfect. I don't know. I think Cedric, if he can play at his, highest potential, let him play. If not, I just, don't let him play the whole game, right? Don't let him play the whole game. That's what I'm saying. Like, in my defense of him playing, I don't want him to go into Bama next week and, all of us, get hyped up that we actually have a shot, and Cedric Tillman, not be able to go to his full potential because he's just not getting his feet wet against elite DBs for Alabama. LSU, their DBU, respectfully, in their history too, that's going to be a completely different matchup for him to play this week. But, I would rather him, if he can, get back into it. I think we can win without him. We saw what Florida, against Florida, what Ramel Keaton, Jalen Hyatt, and Brew McCoy did. We definitely saw that. But I think, with LSU's defensive ends, with their run defense, the passing game is going to have to be another last week game for Hendon Hooker, where he solidifies this Heisman Hooker campaign right now. And that's, to get the ball out to his receivers. Is Brew McCoy going to, step up? Last week he had that huge chunk play where the receiver just didn't see him. We got to see him actually go out there, in my opinion, and, take over a DB physically. So I just think how does the receivers come out if Cedric Tillman can't go 100%, in my opinion?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Drew's expression.
You're just making so many faces.
It's so bad.
You're right, Brandon. No, I mean, I would, honestly, I just would not take that risk even if he's physically still good to go for Saturday, just because that what we saw from 2 weeks ago against Florida is that, I mean, not to say that Tillman wasn't missed, because he was, but the offense didn't really skip a beat at all. With him not being there. I mean, you had a lot of guys that stepped up with especially Jalen Hyatt and Ramel Keaton. And I just think with the depth that we have at the wide receiver position, that is one position that we can afford to lose one of our starters, as opposed to our offensive line or running back especially. But I would rather save him up for Alabama, just because they have a much more ruthless defense. And the last thing you want is him not to be 100% against Alabama and then re-injure and then be done for the year. So I'd rather take our chances. I still think Brew McCoy and Jalen would be able to step up on Saturday for us and play big time. But, yeah, Brando.
Hey, there he is, back in the top corner, baby. He's back in the top corner.
Let's go.
But no, I agree. I think another thing you got to think about is now that is a multi-million-dollar ankle, because that man's definitely going to be playing on Sundays in a few months. So I mean, if he's smart about it, I would sit out too. And everything that I saw, like the recovery from the surgery, you're not 100% until about 3 or 4 weeks out. And I mean, he just hit week 2, and usually about week 2 is about the time that you start running and cutting again. And like Brando also said, how do you expect to run a 10, 15-yard dig if you can't plan on that ankle? You know, I mean,
Right.
he could, and he could like push through it. But I mean, at that point, are you just going to keep delaying your full recovery and then you just limp through the rest of the season? No pun intended. Or do you just like sit one game out, let your receiver core keep developing like they have and show that they could show up in big games like they did against Florida, and then just keep doing what you're doing?
Look, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, if we drop one, like we've all said, this is like more of a 50-50 game than the other ones. And I think there are more important games down the line than this one. Granted, I mean, I want them all. We all do. But I think the back half of the season is more important than just this one game right now. So I think long term.
Here's the thing for me. So this game is kind of like dessert, right? I mean, who would have ever thought that we would – I mean, truthfully, I know that we have all thought this, but at the beginning of the season that we are all sitting here like we have a legitimate chance to win this game, and it has nothing to do with what our best receiver being out. And it would be different if it was like Hendon Hooker who had this surgery, and it's like, oh shit, like this is a huge game that we might drop. But I think in both his best interest and the team's best interest, we have to learn to play without some of our key guys, and we already have. He also needs to protect himself. You saw in the NFL with Tua and all of that shit going on, the last thing you want to do is ruin your potential moving forward. And Cedric Tillman has it all. There is no reason that he should trot out on the field this weekend, in my opinion. He can cut and do whatever else on the sidelines, act like he's going to go in. I don't see any reason risking it whatsoever. I don't think we need him for this game. And I think that people just need to calm down. We do not need him to win this game at all. We can certainly win it without him. Like, I have no doubt about that.
The rebuttal on my take was exactly what you were talking about with Tua. Like, obviously, you're seeing what happened to him when he had this surgery, and now what's happening to him now, getting rushed back. You're seeing it with, the Patriots being precautious with Mac Jones right now after what happened to him with his leg injury. I think, Cedric Tillman, the article came out today with the, pre-draft mock thing. He's a top 30 pick for next year. And you look at that in Tennessee, and you talked about recruiting, getting elite talent here, that first-round talent, second-round talent, putting it into the league to show kids that you can actually develop is going to be huge. And, that starts right there. If you play him, play him early, like I said, you do risk that. You definitely risk that. You want, the best for Cedric Tillman to have a first-round draft pick wide receiver in Tennessee. It hasn't happened in I don't know how long. So that would be, huge for Cedric. You want to do the best for him after all he's given to you. But if he can go and, do whatever, I obviously want to see him for Bama. But, let's not forget what, Cedric Tillman has done against top talent, against Ole Miss game, against ranked opponents. I think Cedric Tillman, averages 150, yards, 2 touchdowns or whatever. So, if you can get that playmaking ability and Cedric Tillman wants to play and he's able to play and he knows he can play, let him go out there and, get a drive or two. But we saw last week what Ramel Keaton could do with that catch. We saw him burn and step up. It was identical. Heupel and Golish talking about we didn't have to change a single thing that we would have done if Cedric Tillman was in there. That's a huge compliment to a guy like Ramel Keaton, who's been fighting his way just to get on the field. Obviously, you have Jalen Hyatt, who can, go across the middle. Brew McCoy, last week proved himself, finally get into the end zone. I think that's going to get a big, part off of him to go out there and be at his full, level. I think he has a lot of football he can play, and we're just scratching the surface with him. So I definitely think that our wide receiver core, you saw it with, Walker, Merrill, and Squirrel getting involved too. There's still guys that don't even see the field, guys that were part of the rotation a year ago that haven't even seen the field like that this year. So I definitely think it might be wild, hopefully, everyone's locked in. But if Hooken can get the ball the first few drives and not overthrow like we did to Hyatt across the middle against Pitt, you go out there and get some points on the boards, and I promise you those Raging Cajuns, they're going to be quiet by halftime. So you just got to go out there and, prove that not only with Cedric Tillman, but in general, this is the best offense in the country.
That's a good point, too, because, like you said, we didn't have our lead receiver, but you couldn't tell by the way that Hooker played. You know, I mean, he went 22 for 28 and threw over 300 yards. So, I mean, like the QB production's still there. So, I mean, that's really important too. So it's not like, I mean, as long as our leader's fine, then like the rest of the team's fine. You know, I think that's the biggest thing.
So I fully agree with all of that. And we are at our hour mark. So for the sake of our punishment, we can't change our predictions. But for the sake of our weekly predictions live, we can change them if we want to. Doesn't affect if you have to do the punishment at the end of the season or not. But let's go around and get everyone's final score predictions for this weekend versus LSU.
I will say I don't think we're getting Brando's because he's frozen.
He's frozen.
Oh, and he's gone.
Man, poor Brando's like took so many L's today on tonight's show. I mean, I feel him with his hate towards Xfinity. I mean, they're just the absolute.
They're bad. They're bad.
I would never use them.
He just sent a text to the group chat. Man, poor Brando taking L's. All right, Drew, start us off.
I mean, I think LSU is going to be able to score some points on us just because I still don't really have very much confidence in our secondary. I think we will get a couple key turnovers in there, and I do think Hooker is going to really turn the ball over, which is so relieving to say considering 4 games in that like he still hasn't really turned it over, either fumble or interception. But I think Vols win 38-30.
Okay.
I think I sent out a tweet earlier today, so I'm going to stand by it. I don't know how I felt about it. I think I just kind of got a little bit excited and just fired it off. But I said 35-24. I think if Ced was 100% playing, I would trust that a little bit more. But I still think we find a way. And like you said, I don't think LSU's offense can keep up with ours, even if their defense is pretty solid. So I'm going to stick at 35-24.
All right. I've had some trouble trying to figure this out, but I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 30-31. Yeah, 31-24 Vols.
Okay, I thought you were saying like 30-31. Like that's a score. I was like, hold on.
I'm trying to gauge how I'm feeling because it goes Monday and then Wednesday, and then I'm like coasting after that Thursday, Friday.
I'd be pretty fired up if our defense only gave up 24 points. So I just don't have confidence in it. That's it. So I got more enough confidence on the offense, but secondary's got to prove themselves, and this is a good game to prove themselves and get try to get some momentum towards their way heading into the deep part of the schedule. So
I like it. And Brando via group text has submitted his score 38-34 Vols. That's high scoring. We'll see.
Vols on top. That's all that matters.
Vols on top for the
1-0.
Yeah.
2-0, I guess would have to be.
Literally, a safety. 2-0. Vols win. I don't care. Whatever it is, Vols win. We're done for the week. Everyone's excited. Hopefully we'll be back next week for Bama with some special guests that we are trying to plan. And hopefully we're sitting at 5-0. So I guess that's all for us. Good night. Go Vols.
Go Vols.
Go Vols, baby.